Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be reviewing Ultimate Invasion issue 4 by Jonathan Hickman and Brian Hitch, the big finale to the recreation of the Ultimate Universe. Right off the bat I should say this issue didn't really fully land for me as it feels extremely rushed, and the extra 50 pages didn't exactly slow things down, and if anything it sped things up more. The book wastes no time by dropping us right into it as Howard Stark and the 6160 Reed Richards begin building the Immortus engine. Up until now, we've actually been following Howard Stark as the sort of POV character in this universe as he learns the secrets of this universe and that it's not exactly what he thought it was. However, this issue kind of shifts focus over onto this version of Reed Richards and how he's a prisoner of the Maker thanks to the crimes of the 616 Reed, tortured for something he never even did or never even knew he did. It's a very tragic story, but the turn over to him as the focus for most of the issue was really distracting. You would think how last issue ended up with Howard deciding he's going to fight back against Maker and, make his son proud and everything, we would actually follow up on that story like right from when it finished in that issue and we get to see him sort of strategizing a little bit, but we don't get to see any of that. It's all kind of done off page, which is really frustrating since Hickman never usually does stuff like that. Usually we're pretty prior to what he is up to and what his characters are up to and what their moves are, so for it to happen like this is very strange for a writer like him. Hickman has also written both Reed and Doctor Doom several times, so combining the character seems the next logical step, and I'm intrigued to see this Reed's motivations, since throughout the issue there were times where I felt like he was being very heroic and other times where he felt like a villain and this was all just part of his master plan. So I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to do with this character going forward in this new Ultimate Universe and how he might actually end up becoming the bad guy, or he might actually end up being like the big good guy of the book. Howard and Reed eventually finish up their Immortus engine, but surprise, it was all a ruse to get Reed out of his prison so he could shut down the city and allow the future Avengers to return and attack with their leader Kang. Howard chooses not to replace one monster with another and goes his own way, which puts him at odds with both Maker and Kang, and ends with them all being sealed in the city as Reed makes off with the original Immortus engine power core. This is where the book actually gets quite interesting, as without a leader, all of 6160's world leaders meet and decide what to do with their world now that their leader is missing, and it ends with them deciding what to do with America, since America is now without a leader, so it's prime for someone to just move in and take over, or if their vote goes the right way, they'll just split it up between them. It's really quite cool seeing that sort of stuff happen, especially after the last issue where we got to see a little bit of their inner workings and how each of them take a turn at playing the villain, and now they're sort of let off the leash a little bit, like he's not around to control them or to manipulate them or tell them what to do, so now they have some sort of free will. Their first thing to do is to just kind of turn on each other and decide, well, we'll just let this all go to shit basically. And it's really quite interesting after that last issue where they were all touting how good they were and how much better than everyone else they were and how they need to be in charge because this keeps the peace, and the minute their leader gets taken away, the peace just breaks down. It just means that the way Maker was running things was technically the right way. He didn't really go about it the right way. It was a very villainous plan, but it still worked, and that's what is really interesting, and stuff like that I wish the book focused a bit more on, but it doesn't. It's just sort of implied all of this stuff happens off page, and it's again really frustrating since Hickman usually writes this stuff and gets into the nitty gritty of all of that sort of stuff, but here he doesn't, and it's just so perplexing. So in the aftermath of the giant battle in the city in Latveria, Reed manages to escape the city and delivers the Immortus engine core he took and a letter to Tony Stark, helping the boy build his own armor and, to no one's surprise, become the Kang that Maker has been fighting this entire time. Someone that he thought was maybe Howard, and Howard even thought it was going to be himself, but of course it was Tony. It was always going to be Tony. It was quite obvious actually. It was cool seeing him not become Kang straight away and decide to adopt the Iron Lad name, and I like that Reed Richards, whose own descendant has become the original Kang, helped shepherd him in that direction and turn him into the new Ultimate Universe Kang. And it's here we actually get sort of the mission, if you will, for what I guess the Ultimate Universe will be, which is we learn that Maker and everyone else who was in the city when the time dilation went off is stuck in there for about 2 years until they are freed. So the world has 2 years to just prepare, more or less, for the Maker's return, since he's going to be probably pretty pissed. Reed Richards and Tony end up time traveling and going back in time and find their Earth's Captain America, who did indeed exist, and it's a nice callback to that first issue where the Maker searched for this world's Captain America but never found him frozen in ice. And the reason he didn't find him was because Tony and Reed had already found him and whisked him off somewhere, probably to, most likely to the present, where the Ultimate Captain America book, which will no doubt be announced very soon, if not has already been announced, will end up taking place. It's a cool final reveal, and it allows Howard's final letter to his son be read out loud, and it reminds Tony to keep fighting and to be the change in the world and to fight to win. It's a very stark thing to say, and it's something they said to each other a little earlier on in the series, and it's cool to see that come back round. I know I said I wasn't too keen on the book, and it's really thanks to the speed everything is given. The book just flies through a lot of the things, and again, like I've said before, it's so unlike Hickman, who usually gives you time with things and lets you sit in the story for a little while. But here it felt like he was just trying to hit the deadlines with this book so it gets all finished before the Ultimates books start in November. It does give those books a neat premise though. You know, the universe has 2 years to get things ready for Maker's return, and it puts a clock on everything and gives it an endpoint, which is really quite interesting. So maybe the Ultimates aren't actually sticking around, and this entire universe coming back is an event on its own that Hickman will be shepherding, which is quite interesting. But it was all at the expense of this book speeding through some really interesting concepts which I know probably will come back in those books, but I do wish this whole series had just been about fleshing out this new world that Maker was trying to create, since this last issue just sped through a lot of the really interesting stuff the first 3 issues did, like I said before, with the world leaders and how each of them play a villain every now and then, and it rotates with a new person being the villain every now and then. It's very meta and everything, but that all feels gone from this issue, and it's really frustrating. At least the issue is still seeped in that classic Hickman mystery and how he has the ability to just turn any story into a big blockbuster and have that big blockbuster cinematic feel to it, and you can tell he has a genuine love for these characters and getting to write them. Brian Hitch finishes out the series with some more fantastic cinematic double-page spreads of the Maker's battle with Kang. It looked fantastic. And it was a really simple thing, but I loved how Hitch turned the book black and white towards the end of the battle to visualize a time dilation of the city, and the city being essentially frozen in time except to all the people inside, making it feel like this very cold, desolate prison for the Maker and Howard Stark. Ultimate Invasion issue 4 felt extremely rushed despite its oversized page length, and its really interesting story and concepts all seem to be glossed over just to get things ready for the big Ultimates relaunch next month. The book is still filled with some fantastic moments from Maker, Howard Stark, and Reed Richards, and I'm looking forward to seeing these characters and their stories continue in November in the Ultimates books. I'm going to give this issue a 7 out of 10, so check it out, maybe in trade, maybe wait for these 4 issues to come out in trade, and check them out if you're especially looking forward to picking up some of the Ultimate books, since the entire premise of these books is getting set up in these 4 issues, so it'll be a good sort of primer for you, especially if you aren't too familiar with the Ultimate Universe and want sort of like a refresh on everything that's happened as of late.